What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is a series of unfortunate events, Season 3, Episode 5, The Penultimate Peril, Part 1. Fun fact, this is where I learned the word penultimate when I read the book as a kid. And honestly, I mean, it's so fun of a word. I mean, why say, oh, it was the next to last peril when you could say penultimate? Like, that just sounds cooler to me. Anyways, I do vaguely remember this book as well as, like I was talking about with the Grim Grotto. It was one that I read a couple of times while waiting for the 13th book to drop. So it's one that a few details stuck out to me as I'm watching the episode, or as I'm about to. I'm recalling, I remembered the managers I remember they were triplets. So I was a little confused when they said, oh, the twins, Frank and Ernest. I'm like, that? No. But I'll get to that. I also do remember like Mr. Poe being there. I remember Justice Strauss being there. I also remember there was a trial, and I couldn't remember why. And then we get to the end of this episode, I'm like, I think this is why there's a trial. I'm pretty sure, which may or may not happen in the next episode now. I'm not sure, because I remember the trial being involving like the Baudelaires versus Count Olaf. And part of why I'm unsure is, one, we do see Justice Strauss is a lot more of she's taking on a much more hero role. Because looking back over the plot synopsis, apparently she and Jerome both joined VFD in the books, but in this, she's very clearly like taken on the role of, I'm going to help these kids. Like, she's done all this research. Apparently she is the JS, which I actually don't remember how exactly the VFD group were brought to the hotel in the book. They didn't seem to say in the plot synopsis there. So I don't remember if they were all brought there by someone named JS, but here at least she's the one that is JS. She's the one that brought everybody together to sort of basically put Count Olaf on trial and make him pay for all of his crimes type of thing. So between that, because I'm pretty sure she's the one that rules over that trial and after the death of Dewey, but I actually don't remember now. Maybe she wasn't. But that's why I'm unsure, though, if there's a trial, because of the fact that she's the one doing it and we see how much she cares about the Baudelaires. I feel like it would be sort of unfair for her to step up and be like, yes, we're going to judge this trial fairly, when she's obviously going to be biased against Count Olaf and biased for the Baudelaires. So we'll see. Also, I'm pretty certain that Lemony Snicket never actually shows up in the story in the books. I think he might have, and I'm just not remembering, but I definitely don't remember the Baudelaires ever meeting him. So the fact that this ends with them meeting Lemony Snicket, I'm a little confused on that. And also the fact that Count Olaf walks away after Dewey dies, I'm pretty sure he was also on trial. So I don't think he would be getting away if they were about to put him on trial. I'm pretty sure he would have been captured. But whatever the case, I'm definitely curious to see how that story is going to progress. But yes, going back to the manager triplets, like I said, I did remember that there were 3 of them. And so whenever they only introduced 2, I was like, okay, I guess they're keeping the third one a secret. Did they do that in the books? They did not. They did introduce the 3, but they did say that Dewey was seen as more so as a myth. Like, not many people really saw him, so weren't really sure if he existed. But when Kit is talking about what's going to happen, she does say that there are 3 of them. And I'm like, I wonder why they made that change? Well, it hit me shortly after. They did it so, one, you could have the reveal of, wait, you guys are triplets. And also you could have the fake out of, we see Kit and Dewey together, and we're like, oh crap, she said say hello to Frank. She's with Ernest. Oh my god, what a twist. But it's not really a twist. We find out she's on the good side. She's with Dewey, not Ernest. So it was a little cheap for a fake out, but at the same time, I do have to respect them putting in that plot twist and making the audience freak out until we find out later that she's actually with Dewey. I don't know. Nice little addition there. But yeah, looking through the plot synopsis, though, and remembering things that I forgot from when I read it, there are definitely a lot more returning characters in the book than there are in the show. I'm assuming a lot of those were either cut down, 1, because the actor was not available, or 2, because obviously they're trying to condense a lot of book into 2 episodes, so maybe take out some of them, maybe have a couple characters that their stories get condensed a little bit into one other character. Like Jerome is there in the books, but Babs is not. There's another worker from the hospital, Hal, that's there. We do see the vice principal is there, but they also had a few teachers. Charles and Sir from the lumber mill are both there. So yeah, they did cut out some, but they kept the story mostly the same with the Baudelaire siblings getting separated. They're all doing different things for different managers. And it is something that I don't remember if they talk about who had them do what. And I don't know if the show is going to reveal which manager had them do what. But if I had to guess, I'd say Frank and Ernest were probably both responsible for the harpoon and the flypaper. I don't know which one each one was, but honestly, it doesn't really matter because the point of it is they know there's a plan to shoot down the crow, have it drop the sugar bowl, and then have the sugar bowl fall into the laundry room. The plan is there, and I think both the VFD and the villains are both trying to do that. I think Dewey is the one that steps in and gives Sunny the lock, so that way she locks the door. And now, seemingly, I can't remember if she's the one that put in the password or if he did, but seemingly she's the only one that can get into the room now. So I don't know if we'll find this out. I don't know if I'm remembering this vaguely, like in my subconscious, but I feel like we're going to find out that Dewey is kind of on neither side of the schism. He's kind of pulled himself back, and this is his way of sort of keeping either side from getting to the sugar bowl. You know, he and Kit were planning to run away together and have their kids somewhere far away from all this stuff going on. So I think that was him more than likely giving Sunny the lock, and I think that was part of his plan is, well, I'm going to lock the door. Nobody's going to know what the combination is, and now nobody's going to get that sugar bowl, and that's how it should be. That's just my own opinion on it, but we'll see. We'll see if we find out that in the show. And also, once I read the rest of the plot synopsis after the next episode, we'll see if the book talked about it at all. But yeah, looking at the show, I mean, some of the changes they made, yeah, it is different from the book, but for the most part, I mean, they're keeping a lot of it, once again, focused on the mystery. And I think that's where I was most interested to see this episode or these episodes about the Penultimate Peril, because I do vaguely remember this was the book where the mystery got probably the most focus for me. Again, most of the series was about the Baudelaires just trying to survive and maybe getting some answers on their parents. But the mystery of VFD and what it was all about and what Count Olaf was about, this whole schism thing, a lot of that was not really focused on in the books, whereas the show is focused a lot more on that. What's interesting is I did read an interview with the author, I think David Handler, which Lemony Snicket is his pen name. One of the things he talked about was the fact that he did want to focus more on the mystery in the show, because where in the book you could throw little lines in that if people are paying close enough attention, they're catching on, which obviously as a kid, a lot of that probably went over my head, and that's why I'm not remembering as much of the mystery. But in the show, you can't really do that because whatever the camera is focusing on is what the audience is going to be focusing on. You know, unless you're really, really detailed and want to look further, you're probably going to miss all of the stuff if you threw things into the background. Yeah, there will be some people that see it, but most of your audience is going to miss that. So to focus more on the mystery is kind of giving that more life, because now we can see it and we're not having to try to read really close in and see what's going on. So I do have to appreciate that. And I think ultimately, we still do see a lot of the Baudelaires. We still do see a lot of their plight. I think for me, the biggest change is more so the fact that the Baudelaires feel a lot more involved in the mystery in the show than for me they did in the books. But again, I could be totally missing that or misremembering that from when I read it. So maybe that's just me. But I think it really is interesting to see how much this mystery is progressing, how many more answers we're getting. Seeing Kit and Lemony Snicket on the beach, seeing the quagmires floating in the background, knowing that these eagles are going after them. Whatever the sugar bowl is, we're hearing more about this opera where everything kind of went wrong and the schism happened. If I'm understanding this right, because I do remember that it involved, I mean, the sugar bowl situation is Beatrice stole the sugar bowl from Esme. And I think because of that, that's why Beatrice was killed. And I don't know if that's what caused the schism. Like they said it was at an opera, and I thought it was at a party. But I don't know. It's been a while since I've watched the first 2 seasons, so maybe I'm even misremembering that. But it definitely does feel like we are starting to see a lot more of what this is all leading to. We're starting to get maybe a little bit more insight into what is going on behind the scenes, and also VFD in general, what they all are there for. And it's really interesting to also see the hidden library that Dewey runs. It's something that I do remember finding really funny as a kid, is Dewey is kind of the one running this secret library because, the Dewey Decibel System. So very clever writing from Lemony Snicket, Handler, whatever you want to call him. But the last thing to talk about is, once again, the comedy. Comedy is really great. Some great lines again with Lemony Snicket. The line about him being in the taxi, and it's hilarious. Just the way he brings it up, how he describes the scene, but also makes it still kind of funny in a way, talking about the clock, what it sounds like, and how it sounds like what Violet and Klaus and Sonny were doing was wrong. A lot of great scenes there. Two great moments with Count Olaf and Esme, which I was not expecting, because again, their whole family dynamic with Carmelita, still not really that funny to me. But the two lines that stood out to me were, one, when Count Olaf is talking about Hooky, how he's defected, and Esme's follow-up line, well, just because he's got hooks for hands. Defective. Oh, that's great. But then the other one is when Dewey is talking to him, and I can't remember how he described it, but talking about Esme playing second fiddle in the back row of some third-rate theater, all run by Count Olaf. That whole line, her reaction to that, which Dewey's line is great, and it's a hilarious insult, but her follow-up, I don't play second fiddle, like the way she delivered it was really good. So some really great moments there. Also, having Larry get back involved it's almost kind of funny the way he just suddenly shows up. He's back. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I vaguely remember him being in, I think that was the first season. Maybe it was the second, but I was like, oh yeah, he's back. And now he seemingly is just dead, boiled alive in a big pot of chili that is apparently human-sized. I don't know. It was just very odd. And honestly, it does make me wonder if Larry is some side character that maybe did show up in the books, and I just didn't realize that it was the same guy. I don't know. Just something that popped in my mind. I'm like, I wonder if they borrowed this from the books, or if this is just a new character. Like, we need to have somebody that is around, but is not super important. But yeah, I think that's about it for this first episode, though. I'm definitely excited to see what they're going to do with this second episode, where it's going to go, and obviously how this is all going to lead to the final episode and how that's going to come to an end. Because I am kind of curious, since I remember the book not exactly having a very happy ending. So I don't know what they're going to do with it. I'm assuming they're going to stick to the book pretty well, because they've done that so far, so I don't know why they change it now. But yeah, I mean, for a show to not really have a happy ending, it's definitely not normal these days. So I kind of have to appreciate the guts that it takes to make a show like this, based on a book series like this, that is intended kind of for young adults, children. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. So on to the next episode. I'll see you there. And now episode 6, part 2 of the Penultimate Peril. Really good. Really solid penultimate episode for this series as a whole. And a lot of it, surprisingly, was not down to the comedy, because I feel like that's been the one thing that's sort of been keeping me really invested for even the episodes that are not quite as enjoyable, or have changes that are weird to me, or again, some of the more cringy comedy scenes. I feel like the overall comedy, the dark humor, the dry humor, has been keeping me still invested. I'm still on board. This one, it wasn't so much the comedy. The comedy was still there, and I still found myself laughing. Especially the best joke for me was Mr. Poe during the Baudelaire's storytelling part of the trial, as Mr. Poe's just sitting there. Oh my goodness, I can't believe those adults wouldn't listen. Children, I wish you'd told me about all of this. Something about that to me, I mean, it's an obvious joke to make, of course, but it still got me laughing. It was still pretty funny. No, but I think what really impressed me with this episode, and it does make me think back to the last episode, something I forgot to mention was Dewey's death was actually really beautifully shot. Just the shot of him floating down to the underground library, really beautiful scene. The ending of this episode was kind of beautiful. And I mean, the cinematography has been good. Like, it's not been anything that has blown me away or something that's really caught my eye. It's been good though. The sets are really good. The acting obviously has been solid all around. I've not really had any problems with the acting. It's more so, I think, Carmelita has been the one character for me that I don't find her interesting. And then the writing, the choices for some of characters like Mr. Poe showing up in weird spots, that's been my only real issues. The acting has been really good, but the cinematography in these past 2 episodes has just had some very beautiful moments. And that whole final segment with the song number, I mean, I found myself just kind of entranced. I don't know what it was about it, but something about it just really brought me into it, and it really did sort of make you feel for just this whole story. As always, I will discuss some of the changes that were made. So first of all, I did remember whenever Justice Strauss was talking about putting on the blindfolds and stuff, I actually forgot about that, but I did remember whenever she started talking about her accomplice or her other judges that were going to be helping her. I did remember because they were so far away, and they're like, "Why are they all the way up there? Like, why can't they be closer?" I'm like, "Oh, right. I think I know who those two judges are now." Because yeah, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, they're hiding their faces for a reason, and it did occur to me who those two were: the man with no hair but a beard, and the woman with no beard but hair. Yeah, it's a good twist. It's something that in the books when it's revealed, I'm like, yeah, that's a good twist to have. Count Olaf kidnapping Justice Strauss is something that I didn't remember at first, but when they got up to the roof and they were talking about pushing the boat away, and she was basically begging with the Baudelaires to come live with her, that moment came back to me. And that feeling of reading that scene of her trying to beg them, like, just come live your life with me, please. But they realize they can't. The stuff that they've done, the crimes that they've committed, all of it trying to survive, all of it trying to keep away from Count Olaf, all of this stuff that they've done, it's stuff that they realize in that moment they can't just turn their backs on it and pretend like it never happened. And with Count Olaf, they can't just keep running away from him, because he's shown he's got this vendetta, this willingness to go after them no matter what. And it almost just kind of feels like almost similar to the end of the Grim Grotto, where they talked about repeating the cycle all over again or stepping out and doing something different. You're going with Kit Snick instead of going back with Mr. Poe. That's sort of the same feeling that you get here. That idea of you could go live with her, but then you'll still be trying to run away from Count Olaf. He's going to know where you are. He's going to probably try to kill Justice Strauss. He's still coming after your fortune. For them, it's almost like a moment of clarity that this is the way to break that cycle, to go with him. It's not what they want to do, but they sort of realize it's what they need to do. And I do remember being very solemn when I read that scene in the book. So bravo to, the writing team for bringing it all to this moment. And still, while they've still made changes, a lot of this felt very familiar to me. And that's something, even though I didn't remember all the details, I still remember feeling this way whenever I read it for the first time. As far as changes are concerned, the only real changes were to the trial itself. They did bring out a lot of the stuff about Esme and the Sugar Bowl. We did get to hear more about that. The whole over peppering their sausage felt a little odd. I don't know. Something about that just, it felt like another moment similar to the Kit and Dewey scene when we thought he might have been Ernest. It felt very similar to that, where they wanted to make the audience go, oh my God, they're poisoning them. Just to reveal, no, not actually poison, just too much pepper. I guess the truth is, I'm a fan of whenever writers want to do that, whenever they want to have a plot twist that's not actually a plot twist, but the audience thinks it is. I don't mind that, but when you do it 2 episodes in a row, kind of feels like you're kind of relying on that shtick a little too hard. It was fine. It just felt a little, again, similar to the, oh my gosh, they're doing this? No, they're not actually doing that. Okay, well, moving on. And then also, because the plot synopsis didn't really talk about the details of after Olaf kidnaps Justice Strauss, so I don't remember all of the passwords that need to be put into the lock. I do vaguely remember peppermints being involved, but I do wonder if poison darts were something that were a part of the original book as well. Now, granted, Count Olaf probably just typed it in himself if that was the second clue, but they've made him a little extra dumb in this show, so of course him misspelling poison, it fits with this version of Olaf, so I don't think that would have happened in the book, but who knows. But I will say, from the plot synopsis, it sounds like it was always Olaf's plan to burn down, and also the 2 people with the hair and the beard, it was also their plan to burn down the hotel with all of these people. But it does feel like they've sort of pushed Olaf and those 2 apart in this show, where in the book I don't think they ever had that rift. So don't really know what they're planning to do with that. I don't even remember if they show up in the final book or not. But yeah, so the plan was always to burn down the building in the book. Here it was he wants to poison everybody with the mushrooms, which I don't think the mushrooms were actually involved after the Grim Grotto. At least I don't think so. But both in the book and here in the show, all three of the Baudelaire orphans, they do help him. They do help him in some way. It's just Sonny assists in helping burn down the building to warn VFD. Violet gets them the boat. Klaus helps reveal the password. Whereas here, the only thing that stays the same is Klaus helps him with the password. Violet helps him figure out how he's going to get a boat off the roof, and then Sonny suggests burning down the building so that way they can escape without him poisoning everybody with the mushrooms. So minor changes, but still keeps the spirit of the book alive in those scenes, which I think is fine. Yeah, outside of that, some of the interesting stuff being revealed with the whole VFD mystery and the schism, we finally see it was Olaf's dad being killed by Beatrice with a poison dart. Apparently Beatrice is the mother. I don't know if that's something that was revealed in the book or not. If it was, wow, that went over my head, because never in my mind was that a thing. And then whenever, they're talking about her allergic to peppermints and he's talking about, having 3 kids, I'm just like, okay, that's a thing here. I'm really going to have to dig deep into those books now and figure out if I've just missed all of these context clues as a kid. And if I did, wow, I was a stupid kid. But no, I think it makes sense now why Beatrice was so hated. And it is kind of funny because I thought she was killed at that party where she was pushed off the cliff, but maybe she did survive, but then she didn't survive the fire. I don't know if that's what's being suggested here, but she's played by Morena Baccarin, which is cool because I like her as an actress. It's one of those, I don't really remember how much of the mystery was revealed in the books. Is this something that was revealed? And if so, who's the dad in this situation? Is he somebody we know from this story, or is he somebody else entirely? I do still have a lot of questions, but I like what's being revealed here because it does answer a lot of questions about why Olaf is so intent on kidnapping the orphans and stealing their fortune because of what she did. Now, granted, he thought it was Lemony Snicket that did it, and they did have a talk about she is the one that threw the dart. I didn't think that he was close enough, though, to hear that conversation, so I'm not sure if they're suggesting that's what happened. He actually heard it was her, and that's why he blames her, or if he just wanted to hurt her because he thought that he did it, that Lemony Snicket did it, and so, well, they're a couple, so I'm going to go after him and try to kill him. And then, of course, he fakes his death anyway. But yeah, I don't know. Very interesting questions being brought up here and a lot of very interesting answers as well. I'm having a great time. I'm so excited now for this finale because it's probably the one that I remember the least out of these final set of books because I only read it, I think, the one time. And a lot of it did feel so different and so bizarre as a kid. So I don't know if I've missed a lot of... I mean, I didn't read the books all in one go, so there might have been a lot of stuff that was mentioned like from the first set of books, like the first 3 or 4 that may have just gone over my head because I hadn't read them in at least a few years at that point. And again, I was young, so other stuff might have gone over my head. But it did just feel very out of nowhere, where a lot of this was them trying to get away from Count Olaf and trying to solve the mystery of what happened to their parents. But I do remember, though, the end feeling kind of different because not only were they now with Count Olaf after all this time, but I don't really remember there being a whole lot about VFD at the end. I don't think so. I don't know. Again, I only read it the one time, which is weird to me because I feel like with how much I did enjoy the series, I'm surprised I didn't go back and start from the beginning and read it all the way through just to sort of piece it together. It's really bizarre. It's one of those things where if I could go back in time and see where I was, like what headspace I was in as a kid at that point, I would like to know why I didn't do that, because I am the type that I enjoy going back through if it's a story like, for instance, The Blacklist. When I got to the end of The Blacklist, I was excited to go back and start over and see how it progressed from beginning to end, even though the ending was a little mishandled in my opinion. But there's still so much going back that I'm like, holy crap, this is crazy how much I don't remember from the beginning, but how much it played into later on. I'm that type of person that likes to do that. Really surprised I didn't do that with the series, because I feel like a lot of this stuff isn't sticking in my brain and a lot of this stuff I'm forgetting because I only read through a lot of these books one time. Again, only the Grim Grotto and the Penultimate Peril did I read more than once, because I was reading it in preparation for the book that hadn't come out yet. That's my own personal experience on it, but as far as this show is concerned, it's gripped me now. First episode for this season, honestly, first couple episodes of every season have been sort of, okay, interesting, but there's some problems that I have. And it feels like every single season has gone this way, where by the end of it, I'm having a really good time. I still do have a couple issues with some of the changes, but they're not changes that break the show. They're not changes that, in my opinion, ruin anything. I just think because of my affection for how things went in the book and because of how some things stuck out in my mind, to make certain changes, mainly the one that sticks out is the Hinge people, like what happened with them. In my mind, it does sort of affect certain scenes that stood out in my mind a lot more when I read the book. But it doesn't ruin anything. It doesn't take anything down in the show. It's still really well done. And it's changes that in some ways could end up affecting things later on. I don't know exactly how they're going to handle the end of it all and how much of the stuff outside of what the Baudelaires are going through that we're going to see, because in the book, it's only focused on the Baudelaires. So I don't know what they're going to do with the ending. And I will say, I am interested to see how they're going to handle all of this in one episode. Because I had the thought, maybe the last episode will be longer than the others because it's only one episode for one book, but they're not doing that. They are doing it all in one episode, 52 minutes long, or, well, I guess 45 and with credits. I don't know how they're going to handle that because, again, these final set of books were really big books. So to do it in 2 episodes, I'm already thinking, well, that's not a whole lot of time to tackle all this, especially if you're adding more story into it. So now they're doing this with the final one. And granted, they did seem to wrap up some stories here in this. We talked about Kit Snicket, not really sure what happened to her. We see her on the Queequeg, and we see the Great Unknown seemingly attacking the sub. With the Sugar Bowl, we see it land where Klaus in the books also deduced, probably in the hidden library, but we see it seems like the fire may have destroyed it. So they are wrapping up some things. We do find out again what happened at the opera that night. Seemingly we find out Beatrice is the mother of the Baudelaires. So there are a lot of things that do sort of wrap up in this episode that maybe because of that we won't spend as much time on the outside stuff in this final one. But still, this whole book being condensed into one episode really feels like it's a tough task. I mean, we'll see. They've done a good job with it so far, so maybe they'll do brilliantly here. But I'm still looking forward to it. I'm still excited to see how this all comes to an end. But yeah, with all that being said, that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 2 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future series of Unfortunate Events reviews. Only one left, but still. Subscribe if you want to see more TV show reviews after this. Also check out the channel because we do have a lot of TV show reviews as well as a couple of Let's Plays on there. So check those out if you have a chance. But until next time, hope you guys have a great day. And I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.